All quarter, we've talked about social justice, and most recently, social justice in education, particularly as it related to Animal Farm. Now we're going to have you represent your learning based on this prompt. What would you argue is the major cause of the crisis in the American education system? We've read several articles, we have watched several videos about the crisis, and we really want you to be able to consider what is going on. Why are we not number one? Why is America not leading the world in education when we know that we spend the most money? So I'd like you to take some notes now about what argument writing actually is. When you do an argumentative essay, it requires you to investigate a topic very closely. So of course, we are focusing on the crisis in American education. Then you collect, generate, and evaluate evidence. So we've given you many examples of evidence showing you what different crises are existing currently in education. So you've got to choose one of those and choose the evidence to support that. Then you establish your position on the topic in a concise manner. And we know that concise means in a short, to the point way of thinking. So there are some key terms that you're definitely going to need to know to be able to really be successful in writing the essay. First is claim. Claim is the overall thesis. It's what you are going to argue. And we actually are going to spend a lot of time developing your thesis to make sure that it is concise, to make sure that it really argues what you think is the major cause of the crisis. Then data. Data is the research. It's the evidence that's going to support that claim. So much like when we wrote the literary analysis on Animal Farm, we're going to be doing the same things. We're going to be making claims. We're going to be supporting those with data. In this case, it's going to be from the research that you've been given. And then you're going to move to the next step, which is warranted. This is where you explain how or why your data supports the claim. It's the analysis part of it. It's showing the underlying assumptions that connect your data to the claim. It's also known as the bridge, but basically it's you breaking apart how that data reflects the claim. These two terms pretty much go hand in hand. The opposing argument is also known as the counterclaim or the counterargument. This is essentially the other side of the issue, the people who are going to oppose you and why they're going to oppose you. So it's very important for you to recognize that other side of the issue and be able to then craft a rebuttal, which is the evidence that negates or disagrees with their counterclaim. So that is what's going to make our essay different from the literary analysis in that we do recognize the opposing argument and then come up with our rebuttal. So planning the essay, you are going to be given a graphic organizer to help you make sure all of your ideas are logical, reasonable, and focused. So when you start planning the essay, first off, you've got to think about what problem is most significant in education. What's causing the crisis? Is it lack of student motivation? Is it poor teacher training? Is it a lack of funding? Is it programs and policies that are in place? So those are all possible causes of what we're seeing. You need to feel real strongly about it though. Make sure that, this is something you're passionate about. Otherwise, your essay is going to be weak and it's going to be really hard for you to support it adequately. Decide what reasoning you're going to use to support your position. How does the research that we've given you allow you to prove your point? Or what additional research can you do to make sure that you can prove your point? After the pre-writing, you really want to think about analyzing your argument. Who's going to be reading your essay? Will your audience agree with you, be neutral, or disagree? So it's very important in knowing who you're writing to as to what kind of tone you're going to be using. And lastly, again, you want to consider that opposing or counter argument. What is that other side of the issue? What are those viewpoints of someone who's going to oppose you? What are you going to do to form your rebuttal to that position? And what evidence are you going to use to support your rebuttal? So after you begin, or after you have finished the pre-writing, the pre-planning, you're going to start your drafting. Step by step, if you follow this chronological order, you're going to have no problem in creating your essay. So first off, you have your introduction. Just like in the literary analysis, you have a hook or a grabber to grasp the reader's attention right away. It can again be a strong statement, a quote, or a question, just something that is going to bring your reader in that will relate to your thesis. After the hook, you again have the context. You're giving that background information about the problem that is facing American education. And then slam us with your thesis statement. What are you planning to argue throughout the course of your essay? What is your position? After you've written the introduction, the body, paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, all support the thesis statement. You're providing reasons for why your cause has become so important in the American education crisis. Each paragraph begins with a topic sentence explaining your point. You back it up then with the data, the details, the examples from the text we read and the videos we viewed, and then your warranted response of the data. This is where you analyze that data and explain how it relates to your thesis. You want to also make sure that you're using clear transitional words as you move from one paragraph to the next. In addition to, another way, additionally, likewise, those would all be great transitional words as you move from paragraph to paragraph. So after you have drafted the body, this is the paragraph that is going to make it different from the literary analysis. In your paragraph 5, this is where you recognize the opposing argument to your position and craft your rebuttal response to those viewpoints. It's really important to acknowledge the possible objections to your argument and to refute the position with your own evidence. So by recognizing the opposing argument, you're doing a lot of critical thinking and seeing that there are other viewpoints, but you're doing your best to shut those viewpoints down in your evidence. In the conclusion, just again like the literary analysis, you will restate your thesis, summarize your reasons supporting your thesis, and end with some kind of zinger because you really want to make sure that your thesis, your argument was extremely clear to the reader. So end with a thought-provoking question. You could make a prediction of what could happen if no one takes any action. You could make a recommendation or have a call to action, asking for a change in what we currently are seeing. Some things to remember as you are moving through your essay. This is a formal research paper, so you want to maintain a formal tone throughout your writing. You shouldn't have any I or you or slang or any colloquialisms. Everything should be very formal. You also need to remember that your research should be from credible sources. All of the research that I've given you has been credible. However, if you decide to bring in additional research, you need to make sure that it's valid, that it is expert approved, and definitely reinforces the ideas of the American education crisis. We're going to talk about this more on another day, but you are required to add in-text citations for all the research that has been included. And we're going to break this down step by step to help you with this, but if you don't include in-text citations in this research paper, you will be committing plagiarism, and we definitely don't want that to happen. You also are going to be required to have a works cited page that lists your sources in MLA format at the end of your essay. And we're, again, going to use EasyBib to make this a pretty seamless process. Something else to remember, the more time you spend planning this writing, the better it's going to be. So if you can really clearly identify what your argument is and reasons that are supporting your argument, you're going to do just fine. Make sure that you're using the graphic organizer that we've given you. It essentially writes the essay for you from sentence to sentence to sentence. And lastly, of course, proofread everything that you have written. You should have no grammar, no spelling errors at all. So use this video as many times as you need to make sure you understand the expectation of the argument essay, and review your notes as you begin to write. You will have no problem with this essay, guaranteed.